In part 1 of this two-part series, I shared with you my experiences with a rather primitive form of 3D imaging. In part 2, I want to take a different tack. I happened upon an article from 1962 and written by Ron Haydock. The article takes a look at the movies from the 1950s 3D fad. Following then is that fascinating article, and I quote, "You see the armor-skinned gill man swimming towards you out of the depths of the motion picture ocean and reaching out for you. At arm's length, you see the face mask of Vincent Price to reveal a horror you could reach out and touch. You could see great spaceships blasting away from you, sailing higher and higher, seemingly going out of reach and out of the theater. One of the past marvels of movies is just as far out of reach these days. Not since Warner Brothers first introduced sound to motion pictures had there been such a stir of excitement in Hollywood. In 1953, the word spread like the Red Death. Something new and different was being added to films. Third dimension, an unfathomable process which projected images in real perspective with depth as well as width and height. Warner is the studio that developed this amazing process, as it had talking pictures 25 years earlier, termed it natural vision, and based on the principle of human eyesight, this breathtaking illusion of screen depth not only fully rounded performers and the backgrounds, it also hit you in right between the eyes with hurtling chairs, leaping fires, collapsing buildings, cannon-fired shells, even sending the actors and actresses themselves plunging out of the silver screen right into your lap. And soon the producers lapping their folded money with glee. You never knew quite what to expect when you donned the weird cardboard-rimmed pair of stereoscopic glasses handed out when you entered the theater, except that you were going to be sitting in the audience with what appeared to be a bunch of Martians. With the dawn of this remarkable film development came the beginning of a 2-year span of the weirdest, maddest, and most uniquely thrilling movies yet. A horror thriller really kicked off the 3D phase, or fad, with House of Wax, produced by Warner Brothers and starring Vincent Price, Philip Kirk, Frank Lovejoy. In this colorful shocker, Price showed the depth he could rise to as a monstrous sculptor who terrorizes early 1900 New York by murdering his strangely reluctant victims, then molding them into wax statues. The film was a remake of another moldy production made by Warner Brothers in 1933, Mystery of the Wax Museum, with champion screamer Fay Wray, surely one of the most put-upon girls in movie history. In what is considered a classic sequence in the 3D remake, Phyllis Kirk pounds away at Price's mask until it cracks, splinters, and falls away. Behind it lies a scarred, burned, and mutilated monstrosity. 2 dimensions alone were enough to create screams from theater audiences, but in 3D, with all of the thrill-producing realism of life, it is a bit of a film history which can never be forgotten by those who shuddered through it. A flaming rocket ship from another planet came screaming out into the theater, and the opening frames of it came from outer space to create another memorable moment. Universal International, their initial science fiction entry in the 3D sweepstakes, based on an original story by author Ray Bradbury, featured Richard Carlson as the astronomer who first discovers the uninvited arrival of interplanetary visitors, the weird and one-eyed xenomorphs. Fortunately, Carlson and state troopers halted the creatures' nefarious conduct on our planet before too many of them had slithered out into the theater aisles. A horrible little film in the quickie swing to 3D was Robot Monster, produced by Al Zimbalist, who within a few years also gave us Denny Miller as Tarzan the Ape Man. Funny looking, and I do mean funny, moon monsters attacking and hoping to conquer Earth was the crashing bore of Zimbalist. A lawsuit claimed that the film wasn't even real 3D, that the theater was just running 2 ordinary prints at once. TV star George Nader plodded through the 3D script looking for its depth, but realizing all the while that this was one challenge no man could meet. Even a trick car couldn't help. Universal came back strong in 1954 with the very first 3D character monster. The studio, famous for its Wolfman, Frankenstein, and others, introduced the gilled water breather, the creature from the Black Lagoon, to breathless audiences. Richard Carlson returned to the stereo screen as the leader of a scientific expedition which comes upon the eerie lagoon monster in the upper reaches of the Amazon River. More than one moviegoer was splashed when the superbly filmed 3D underwater sequences drifted on to the screen. Following closely on the scales of Universal's Gillman was the Phantom of the Rue Morgue, a Warner Brothers release based on the story by Edgar Allan Poe. Sultan, a wild gorilla, all woolly and a yard wide, was the featured attraction of this color extravaganza. After Sultan had been caged by the Paris police, Golrath, another beast from Tarzanic jungles, was loosed by 20th Century Fox for Gorilla at Large. Goliath's escape creates like pandemonium when it cuts the circus pad and finally climbs a carnival roller coaster, only to get sent on its last ride with some lead and winds up dead. The film sports a good cast with Lee Marvin, Lee J. Cobb, Cameron Mitchell, Raymond Burr, Warren Stevens, and Anne Bancroft, and the article ends about there. The 3D fad rather quickly ran its course. The Creature from the Black Lagoon was such a success that it spawned 2 sequels, and from that period the Creature movies and It Came from Outer Space stand out as my favorites, but in their standard format. The 3D versions that I saw released to home video were of very inferior quality. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this vintage article. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe, and have an awesome, great evening. God bless.